Right, we're here at Richard Beachell's at Bainton on some of the best soil, I believe, certainly in the East Riding. And some of the crops, obviously, even on this land, have suffered terribly from the last, 12-14 weeks of dry weather. We're looking at first wheat here, first wheat Oakley following vining peas, and you know, it looks reasonable. That doesn't go, or it isn't mirrored elsewhere on the farm purely because of the dry conditions, but we have looked at a nutritional regime this year, and fields vary tremendously, and the variety's ability to withstand drought is obviously standing out tremendously in time of drilling, as we've said before. But Rich, what are you saying this year in terms of your particular farm here, where, you know, we're looking now, and I hope you agree that you've got some of the best soils, deepest soils in the East Riding. You know, even these have suffered, haven't they?
Oh, terribly. As you get onto the heavier land down towards Bainton, you know, further south,
yeah,
it's noticeable the crops are a lot better.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact that we've had so little rain that the nutrition hasn't gone in. The nitrogen, it hasn't been available, and the crops have lost all their tillers, and that's why they look so thin. And we were just saying, you can see down the rows at this time of year isn't a very good sign, so I'm sure we're going to be at least a ton an acre down, which is disappointing. But
that's a high percentage, Rich, isn't it?
It is a high percentage.
You know, for this farm you're looking at sort of 25%.
Yeah, but we haven't had as much, we've never had a spring like this before, and the crops have obviously, you know, really suffered, so
yeah.
So it's just one of those, it's nothing we could have done. The only thing that we probably could have done, particularly because we use quite a lot of urea, is if we'd gone on maybe a fortnight earlier, when there was moisture about,
yeah,
and you know, a bit of rain came,
yeah,
it just might have just made the difference.
I know early doors we were looking at nitrogen going on and still being in a prill form, or certainly a form which you could see on the surface of the soil, fortnight to 3 weeks later, and the consequences of that are now being seen.
They are.
Well, you've had what, 5 mil, you said, in the last 24 hours, is that right?
In the last 24 hours, but at Driftfield they must have had double that easily. It's just been very isolated. You've had more up at Carlton.
Yeah, we had a massive storm up there, and it lasted 10 minutes on Friday.
Yeah.
We don't want that sort of rain, but this gentle rain that we seem to be getting.
Yeah.
I've just, you know, as you go walking fields, Rich, you sort of think of the consequences of not only what we've had, but what we're having now. And if we do get any more appreciable rain, and it's forecast to be relatively wet over the next 3 days, and over the bank holiday Monday.
Yeah.
And we've just been pulling plants out and looking at tiller numbers and small tillers, which I'm hoping. I mean, you put a guess on it, don't you? But how much nitrogen do we think is still in the soil that hasn't been utilised?
There must be a lot. There must be a lot.
And those small tillers, therefore, are going to be supported by nitrogen.
Yeah. And what about winter barleys as well? I mean, if you're going malting barley, are they far enough on now to not take the nitrogen?
I don't think so.
So we're going to have high nitrogens.
High nitrogens. I mean, that's
lower yields.
Lower yields. Yeah. On wheats, anybody growing quality wheats, they could see a relatively decent hike in protein levels by the same ruling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, the consequences of all, we're not used to this dry land farming, and last year it was bloody dry, but it actually came in later, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And it was too critical for it to turn dry this year at the time it did.
Spring barleys might do better than the winter barleys.
I think spring barleys look as good as anything we've got in the ground.
They're short. I mean, the flag leaves out now and they're very short, but at least they have quite a lot more growing to do, haven't they?
I was saying to somebody yesterday that straw's going to be of a premium. And somebody said,
because we're going to chop everything.
Yeah, well, you do right, but it has a value, and that will put people off chopping it, which I think is probably the wrong attitude.
Well, you think though, if you look at a crop like that, combining it, the combine's going to smash the straw up so much. It's hardly going to be worth running the baler through.
No, it isn't.
There's going to be absolutely nothing there.
No. Apparently, they're coming across from the continent and trying to negotiate straw prices to take back to the continent.
That's going to be a fair price then.
Well, somebody said if you've got a decent high fence and a good chain and padlock, bale it and stick it on there, and But anyway, we've got to wait and see, and it's you've got T2s coming up on...
Well, T2's gone on the Oakleys, but what I'm going to do on the Grafton, which hasn't got the potential, Grafton's as a second weed.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to just do the T2 and T3 together.
Yeah.
Again, it's got low yield potential, but also it's more disease resistant.
I don't think that's a rush job, is it, Rich?
No,
Are you going to wait for the ear to come out?
I'm going to try and do it next week.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, if there could be a problem with blossom midge, we've got traps up.
Yeah.
And if blossom midge is a problem, then I can
do
it all together, and then that'll be it.
Makes
But
sense.
it's still going to get some magnesium.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to.
And I'll keep harping on about it, but in terms of sort of busting this abiotic and biotic stress, the nitrogen normally, from a soil point of view, is below where roots have managed to get hold of it. It tends to be lower down in the soil profile, and anything we can do to jog the plant into that biological cycle, if you like, exuding sugars, etc., as we've gone through already, the better. And there's a strong correlation between magnesium and nitrogen uptake for the plant to utilise the nitrogen if we get any more appreciable rain. But anyway, we've got what we've got, Rich, and have to make the best out of it.
Precisely.
I think there's going to be some worried, fettered brows over meeting contracts this year, not only from barley point of view.
We've been doing that with our barley, and I think we're going to be about... I've sort of been estimating, I think we're going to be about 500 tonne down, but as I was saying to you earlier, just for extreme examples, if the yield potential had been there early on, we'd have had grain prices near £100 a tonne.
Yes.
So we'd have been getting 4 tonne an acre at £100 a tonne.
Yeah.
Or 2 tonne an acre at £200 a tonne. It's exactly the same
it is.
returns.
Yeah,
so those are two extremes. I mean, I hope to hell we get more than 2 tonne an acre.
Yeah. You'd like to think
the
so.
return at the end of the day, and then if you've got less yield, hopefully it's going to take less. You've got less tonnage to dry. Hopefully, if it's going to stay dry, you don't want it to be a wet harvest. But the law of averages would determine that probably it is going to be a wet harvest because that rain's going to come sometime. Yeah,
I think in terms of the country, Rich, I think up here in the East Riding and probably further north, we're luckier than a lot of people. You've got to look at the year relative to other areas as well, and further sort of south east in East Anglia and places like that. They're so desperate. I mean, I've even heard they're not even going to bother putting the combine through it. It just is horrendous for people like that. So there's going to be a great deal of disappointment in this area. But I think if you got in your truck and did a 3-hour journey into that area, I think you'd come back slightly more heartened, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, we'll get what we get anyway. And costs are down. Growth regulators we haven't used this year. Yeah. Fungicides have been less, so we've saved a little bit on that.
Yeah.
But we'll get what we get, won't we?
Yeah, no, I think it's clever to dance according to the conditions, but nobody would have forecast this protracted dry spell, would they?
No way.
Anyway, thanks for that, Rich.
All right.
Alrighty.